I'm back, and it's time to take over the world.
Men today live in a tempest of confusion. Dr. Bradford Carlton is a beacon in the storm.
Hey there, I'm Dr. Bradford Carlton, and we are back. It's been a little while since you've seen me. I have kind of been bouncing around. I have a different look, different things going on, and I figure, coming back into this world, it's time to retell my story in a slightly different way. Now, if you've been following me for a few years, you are aware of kind of my business background. I did a lot of entrepreneurship content. I was the gamerpreneur for a little while. And in that time, I was just sitting there biting my tongue because, my entire life, it's fascinating because I was told from a young age that you got to grow up, you got to go to school, you got to get a good job. And that was where the story ended, right? And along the way, I discovered entrepreneurship and this world that I didn't get told as a child, that I had this option of being somebody other than a slave, other than a robot that works for corporations, and I'm supposed to be happy with what they give me, and I'm just supposed to take it with a smile. And as I worked customer service, I'm supposed to sit there and smile while people scream in my face for something I had nothing to do with, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And so I'll be honest, I'm really sick and tired. I'm really, really sick and tired of trying to put on a front, trying to be somebody that I'm not, and I'm done with it. And so this show, this new version of Bradford Carlton and my brand, is all about the fact that I am sick and tired and angry about the fact that, honestly, our world has just gone wacky. It's gone absolutely nuts, and we are living here trying to figure out how we fit into the pieces of what the world has turned into, and that is not what we're supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be ourselves, and we are supposed to go for what we want. In fact, that's what I did my entire life. From age 13, when I was sitting at a kitchen table, my mom was washing dishes over in the kitchen, and I was doing an assignment that was, what is it that you want to be when you grow up? And I knew that I wanted to be a politician. I wanted to be that person who could go out there and shake hands with people, learn about what their problems are, and then go off and talk to other people, debate the issues, and make it happen. And so I focused my entire life on it. That's the reason that I went to law school. And, while I was in law school, I worked for the United States Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. And I then, after I got out of law school, I went and I worked for a court in a county in Ohio. And I started off just a part-time law clerk. I moved up to staff attorney and then bailiff. And eventually I was made the co-court administrator along with a magistrate. And here I am. I was 26 years old and I'm running a county court. The judge was sending me around the county to meet the coroner, to meet the sheriff, to meet the city council or the county council. And I got deeply involved in politics. I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, right? And I was going to these fundraisers. I got to see Karl Rove speak at these fancy dinners, and I was told that where you live, Brad, you have to be a certain party. And so I'm like, okay, makes sense to me. So I got deeply involved in this other party, and I'm going to fundraisers, I'm going to nonprofits and political action committee meetings. And before I knew it, I was the executive vice president of the largest political action committee in Northeast Ohio. And which means I was running this organization while the president glad-handed people. I was the one who actually made sure that the members were doing stuff. I was helping to make sure that the candidates that we were going to be supporting were getting funded and that they were giving speaking opportunities. And again, I was going around the state and I was doing my politicking thing, which is exactly what I wanted. The issue was I was quickly finding out that the party that I had been with at that point didn't like men. And I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but like they didn't like men. In fact, I was speaking with the executive director of the county party, and I was telling him that I was planning on running for office, and he said, "Let me pass on the information, the advice that was given to me." Okay, this is the executive director of the Democratic Party at the time, and he goes, "I was told that there is no place in this party for white men, and so Brad, same with you. You don't have a chance." And I'm like, yo, why not? Like, am I being discriminated against? And in fact, I saw it quite frequently as I was growing. So like, here I am, I'm like, my dreams are kind of shattered, like, because I ran for office twice, and it came back on me that, they didn't want me. And so I started focusing on growing my business, right? Like, because if my political dream was kind of up in smoke, I was going to focus on my business. And so I focused on building my business, all right? So my wife and I, we built one of the largest fastest growing law practices in the state of Ohio using social media advertising. And like we had staff, we were growing, we were becoming well respected in the community because like that political bug like never really left my head. I understood that all human interaction is politics. And so I went into business thinking about how to get people to like us, because that is what you do in order to get money to you, right? Like I was given some advice back when I was in law school, telling people I wanted to run for office. And this is a fairly large donor to various campaigns, and he was like very well respected in the legal community. He told me that if you want to fundraise, you first have to friend raise. And so I took that advice and I moved into the business space with it as well. And, I have all kinds of accomplishments in the business space. I was, the youngest named partner at an established firm in the state of Ohio at age 27, before the political stuff. I wrote the literal book on the subject of elder law for the state of Ohio, the 2015 West publication. My law practice, my wife, again, she was only like a year and a half into practice, but she was being invited by bar associations around the state to teach attorneys on digital advertising, digital marketing. Okay. So like we were really hustling. We were really making things happen. And it all changed the day that my daughter was born. My wife actually nearly died in childbirth. And it was really scary because one, she was my soulmate, or is my soulmate, and two, she was the trial attorney for the entire law practice that we had. So we had multiple attorneys, but they weren't trial attorneys. It was all, work, and then she would just go to court because there's not that much court in law. Like no matter what Law and Order makes you think, trials basically never, ever, ever happens. It's all paperwork. And so baby comes out. My wife had nearly died in this whole process, and they put her on my wife's chest. And my wife looks up at me and goes, "I'm not going back to work." So, whether she died or not, like that was the end of the law practice. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And so I had been doing business law at this law practice. I had, business clients, and I figured, why don't I go into business consulting, which is exactly what I did. And I kicked around. I got some clients, in Ohio, and it was nothing to write home about. It was like this, like, again, I wanted to like be this Politico dude who like was doing big things, and here I am like helping a small local retail store, a small local service industry, and it was just like it wasn't what I was meant for. And so I packed up, I moved to Las Vegas, and within 2 weeks of getting here, I was at a networking event. I met a guy, and then about 3 weeks later, the guy and his business partners made me the president of their international business consulting firm. And I was like, woohoo, like this is awesome. I have no idea what I'm doing because I was a small town attorney and I had to figure it out all on the fly. But it worked out. We had clients, we were doing business. Like, I don't know what to say. I had too many NDAs to talk about, right? Like that time in my life is it's best forgotten because I can't even talk about it. So what I did see though, was that there was this massive disparity between how we were able to help businesses that were owned by women and businesses that were owned by men. And you would think like, business is a business is a business. Like, no, if you are a man, you do not get the same kind of benefits and opportunities as if you are a woman who owns a business, if it's a majority owned business, okay? And the same thing applies to minorities, but I don't particularly want to go there. You have different grant opportunities, you have different resource opportunities in the community. There's all kinds of people who want, and other businesses who want to assist you and help you grow your business if you're a woman. Whereas if you're a man, like, you better have a product that you're able to sell, and then you better be making enough revenue to hopefully be able to get some funding in order to grow and scale. Like, that's kind of how it went. And whereas if you were a woman, like, it was largely, you could get involved in a community and they would help promote you, and then they would help feature you, and then they would help, and you would get all this help. And I was like, okay, cool. But I wasn't involved in any of that, right? I understood I had to, like, take these different avenues for my clients, and it just, like, it didn't affect me at the time. But then I eventually left that consulting firm and I went off to start my own business, my own consulting firm. And I was kind of in a pickle because I completely walked away from this business that I had helped grow. The partners all decided to kind of retire at the same time. And here I am, more or less starting from scratch. And I realized I don't have, like, any of those opportunities. I don't have any of the helpful resources in the same way. Like, I'm kind of here on my own. And I would reach out and I would ask for support. I'd ask for help, and I would often get, we only help women, or we only help minorities, and you're SOL. Like, oh, fun, right? Not so fun. It's not cool. And like, I did some incredible things myself. Like, I like to say that I've referred over $2.5 billion of business funding needs to various investors. Like, you don't just happen upon $2.5 billion of business funding needs that you're able to refer to people, right? Like, that business has to come to you, or you have to go find it, which is kind of what I did. Like, and I helped build the largest service provider for disabled veterans in the state of Nevada. Like, I was part owner of that business. We worked with a disabled veteran who, like, saw this need, and we helped grow his business. And I say we, it was my wife and his son, so it wasn't just me. But I went and built this business that became this provider. Like, I had veterans who were, like, Marines who had been, like, through the worst of the worst situations you can imagine. And here they are crying on my shoulder, literally crying on my shoulder, because they didn't think there was anybody out there to help them through the issues that they were suffering from, to help them get the support that they needed. And, like, it broke my mind trying to think, how can anybody think that our system is okay? Because it's not. Here's veterans who, serve our country, who go off, put their life on the line. It's literally a contract for their life that they sign with the US government. And they go off and they put themselves in incredible situations. They suffer incredible scenarios. There's certain lakes that like ships were docked in, that the water is poison, and they were drinking it. Now a lot of them are getting cancer, and for a long time they weren't being recognized for the water causing the cancer. Them being in the situation the U.S. government put them in, like, they weren't being provided for. And so, like, I helped build that, right? I was the vice president of community partner development for the Association of the United States Army for the local chapter here. I really got involved with helping our armed forces and our veterans. And I still saw that there was a disparity. There's a disparity between the way men and women were being treated. Women got more support. The men had to suck it up and had to tough it out more because, like, they were men, and especially in this case, they were veteran men, so they could take anything, right? Like, yo, what's up with that? Like, why don't we just treat everybody and the issues that they have as one people? All right, so I dealt with all this, and I've been growing these business. I've been working with all these clients, and like I looked inside one morning. I woke up and I asked myself, Brad, are you happy? Because you had this life plan. You're going to go into politics. You're going to run for office. You're going to do all that. And you got stonewalled. And okay, you're going to go into business. And you're helping all these people doing this all this work. But you're being stonewalled yourself. Are you happy doing what you're doing? And the answer was not really. I wasn't. And I decided to make a massive shift. For those of you who've been following me the past 4 years, I started the Gamerpreneur, right? I went out there. I figured, hey, I've been playing video games my entire life. Let me go ahead and show gamers, people like me, who there's no such thing as a typical gamer. Like if you are watching this trying to figure out how to advertise to gamers because you were watching the rest of my content and you're like, how do I break into this niche? There is no niche. There's no such thing as a gamer. They are people who have hobbies, and we're gonna move on from that because I don't wanna talk about that anymore. But I grew that brand from absolutely nothing. I started in my living room with a junky laptop to prove that I could start with a junky laptop and really trash furniture behind me because we had just moved into a new place right at the start of the pandemic, and the landlord had the furniture. We've since had all that removed and new furniture put in. But if you go back and watch my first videos, it was ugly content. I started with 0 because I wanted to prove that I could. And within a year, I had over 100,000 followers. The next year after that, I grew up another 60, 70,000 followers or so. My focus kind of started switching that second year. I started getting more into the business side of it again. So my first year was all focused on brand building, just getting followers, getting views, getting seen, right? And then I started riding that celebrity into getting business opportunities. I had something like 8 different board offers. Companies wanted me to be on their board because of the fact that I had a show and then I was interviewing all these people. I got to interview a former NFL player, a NASCAR driver. I got to interview business owners who were making tens of hundreds of millions of dollars a year with their business. And those businesses were fairly new, and showing people how to grow their brands. I still have people today who send me messages saying, hey, I watched you like 2 years ago. I took all your advice and I've been able to grow myself tens of thousands of followers. I'm making money selling t-shirts. I'm doing this. Like I wrote my own book. I still have that happen. I made an impact in this world, and that made me so happy. It carried me through the last year that I had a little bit of an up and down. I found a business partner. I worked with this business partner who, great opportunity. Like because of the Gamerpreneur show, because of my brand, I was able to get this business partner. And this business partner helped me work with NBA athletes and boxing athletes and musicians and celebrities. Like I was in a totally different world than in the gaming world. It was like this whirlwind tour. I was backstage at major events. I was ringside at major boxing events, heavy title fights, right? Televised on Showtime and HBO. And I knew that at some point I had to go off and I had to make my own thing. I can't just sit in the shadow of somebody else and allow them to use all my hard work and get all the credit for it. And so I decided that I was going to make a switch. Now, here, right at the end of my work with that business partner, I helped him with setting up I literally helped set up. I was there putting chairs and setting stuff up at a Don King Productions heavyweight title fight. But also we were getting involved in conservative politics. We were pulling information for congressional races, and we were doing consulting. And my business partner, who was the face of that particular business, was able to go off to CPAC, who was able to go to Mar-a-Lago and meet President Trump and do all that. And I really felt that I was being squeezed out. And not so good for a person who likes the limelight, right? Like here I am, I just wanted to be more involved. And so I left. I decided I was going to leave that business partner. I was going to focus on my own business. I was going to focus on what I was doing. I helped my wife set up a business of her own in the interim, a skincare business. Well, not quite skincare. It was a cosmetics business. And again, here I am. Like I had just been interviewing NBA all-stars, and I had been dining with former world champions who would pay my bill. It was wonderful. And now I'm back kind of small business again, helping my wife. And I very quickly realized, here's my wife starting a business, and she has all of these opportunities once again because she's a woman starting a business. And I thought to myself, that business I was doing with my business partner, like we didn't have any of these opportunities. Like we were really grinding it out and we were able to turn it into something that mattered. But like here she is, and she's got, these services and these connections and these groups and these organizations that are all looking to help her. I don't have that. And I don't have that because I'm a man. And man, like most of you would know, like the vast majority of my life, I was pretty liberal. Like my best friend still lives in California. He was a Republican, and he and I we'd have conversations growing up all the time. I was kind of the liberal one. And I'm not pure California liberal. Like I'm still fairly conservative when it comes to California. But I just knew that I don't think I can be this anymore. I don't think I can like continue to keep up with the charade that helping people that we say are disadvantaged for the sake of saying that they're disadvantaged is right. Like there are legitimate issues that men are facing today. There's mental health issues. The business I was in with the business partner was mostly focused on mental health. Men make up 4/5 of all suicides. And yet we're not putting a disproportionate amount of resources into trying to help men stop killing themselves. You know, men make up most trash collectors. They make up most sewage workers. They make up most construction jobs. They make up a lot of these roles that we consider beneath us in society. These people that people look down on because of their job, but they're hard work. These are jobs that most people have no interest in doing, but men make up most of these positions. And I started thinking, you know, does society today really seem to care about the average man? And so I've decided that I'm reinventing this brand. I'm sick and tired. I'm going to be a little more I don't want to say crass than I have been. I'm going to be more fluid than I have been. I'm going to be more honest and open and genuine than I have been. If you go back and you watch my shows, if you go back and especially to watch the interviews were all, you know, here's the question set. I more or less just asked the question. I smiled the whole time, like, oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, right. And I wanted to make people look good on my show. And I heard a lot of really wacky things on my show. And the whole time I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And I pretended like I didn't matter. And I'm done with it. I'm done with it because it is bull. It is such horse hockey. I'm still going to try to prevent myself from swearing on the show because I want to make this family friendly. I want my daughter to be able to watch this. I need to bring this issue to light. I need to talk about the fact that in our world today, that if you talk positively about men, for some reason you are listed as a misogynist, you're a chauvinist. And like, I absolutely in no way believe that men are better than women. Totally, right? Like, do some men perform better than some women in some situations? Yes, right? But some women perform better than some men in some situations. So like, for some reason, if you say, hey, we really need to be talking about giving some support services to men, all of a sudden you're turned into this person who's talking about taking away services from everybody else. And I'm like, hold up, what? Why? Why do we need to be talking about taking away anything? Why are you bringing up taking away when I'm saying that there is a segment of the population who is in need? All right. Having been in the Democrats, I was the political action committee I was part of. It was the Summit County Progressive Democrats. It was the largest political action committee in Northeast Ohio. All right. And here is this group, and they believe in equality and making sure that everybody is equal and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, here are men, and I'm not saying in every respect, but in a lot of respects, men are becoming second-class citizens. We're being seen as lesser individuals. Just as an example, men are more likely to drop out of high school than women. It's 50% more likely than women to drop out. But also, men are less likely to graduate from college and are less have a less less of a presence than women in graduate programs. And it's something like 40 to 60%. Women are about 60% of the graduate population. Men are about 40% of the population, okay? And the number has been going down over the past 3 decades, since the 80s. It was like 47% in the 80s for men, and now it's like 40%. And, you know, if that trend continues, are we going to be hearing about how we need to like get men back into school? We need to get men back into these fields? I kind of doubt that we're going to hear that, because it's politicians are pandering to women. women are by and large seen as the decision makers. I worked with insurance guys for a while, who used to sell really high level insurance, and they would tell me all the decision making is made by the wife in the household. Like, okay, so you don't try to sell to the man, you try to sell to the woman. And here we are seeing politicians trying to sell to the women and basically ignoring the men because the men will just go along with it. And you're seeing these communities rise up of men who, for whatever reason, don't feel that they have a place in society anymore, whether they are overweight or they never got taught to interact with women. I never got taught to interact with women. Like, growing up, my parents never really involved themselves with that. I had nerdy friends. We never really knew how. Like, I didn't have a date to my prom because I asked a couple of girls and they said no. I'm like, oh, I don't know what else to do. And we're now seeing this population of men who are getting really angry about their lot in life. And I'm seeing influencers and content creators capitalizing on this anger and this fear and this worry and the stress that these men are experiencing, because not only do they feel that they don't know how to interact with society, at the same time, society is coming and trying to, it makes them feel that they're being put down and that they're disposable and that they don't have worth or they don't have value. And no one is coming in to try to help them except these content creators who are focused on saying that it's the fault of women. It's the fault of feminism. It's the fault of the other 50% of the human race. And that's just not it. It is not the fault of women. It is not the fault of any particular concept or creed. It is the fault of all these corrupt politicians who are pandering, trying to get the vote and then doing whatever their corporate overlords tell them to. It's the fault of churches telling men that they have a specific role, a specific lot in life. But then when you look out in the real world, guess what? That doesn't exist. It's the fault of our schools and our teachers for training our students and our children and our boys to be something that boys just aren't. Men and women are different. Boys and girls are different. We are training children to have jobs, to sit in cubicles, to do corporate office work, whereas the boys are bouncing out of their seats because that's what little boys do, and they're getting disciplined for it. They're being held back for it. I read somewhere while I was preparing to do this transition in my brand that there's a movement to just straight 100% hold boys back a year. They're just, doesn't matter how mature they are, how intelligent they are. We should just hold boys back an extra year because they're just not as developed as girls. Yo, how is that not discrimination of the highest order? How is that how's that any different than what these woke liberal nut jobs are saying that men did to women for generations? Okay, well, maybe we need to look in the mirror and realize that you're doing it to us too, right? But okay, politicians, churches, it's the teachers in schools. They just don't understand that boys and girls are different and they need to be trained and raised slightly differently. We just do. Doesn't mean we separate the classes. I don't believe in any of that. I think we absolutely have to have that integration. But you have to have some understanding that maybe your lesson plan is geared more toward one sex than the other. But it's also our families. Our families tell us that, this is what it means to be a man, right? You're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and you're told this is what it means to be a man. You have to be strong. You have to never cry. You have to feel nothing inside. And guess what you got? You got generations of men who are emotionally stunted, who don't know how to handle and process anything other than through anger, which is the only allowed emotion that men are allowed to experience. And we create a society of individuals who don't have a place. Why? What place do we have for men other than the rough and tumble jobs that people look down upon that are considered gross or nasty or dangerous? And we stick men in them and we forget about the jobs exist because we don't want to know those jobs exist. And they go home and they drink and there's lots of domestic violence and hopefully these men end up having happy lives. At least that's what I believe, because I don't think anybody else is out looking out for them. And so what we're doing is I'm creating something new. I'm calling this the beacon in the storm. I am sick and tired of this shit storm that we have created in our world today, where we're just ignoring the issues that men are experiencing. we're just ignoring it. We pretend that this isn't real, and the people who do talk about it are all of a sudden misogynistic and, oh, they hate women, and like, no. I'm happily married. I love my wife. I love my daughter. I want the world for them. I want them to be able to experience every joy they possibly can. I want them to be able to do anything. My daughter can accomplish anything. She is the smartest little thing you've ever seen. She's a little on the weak side, but like, hey, I was pretty weak growing up too. It is what it is, all right? She's an individual. She's unique. I want her to experience the life that she is meant to have, and that's not dictated by me. That's dictated by her. All right, I have no issue whatsoever with women, and this content that we're going to be making moving forward is going to have nothing to do with negatives about women, because women aren't important for the conversation about what's going on with men. And that's the thing that I think people are skipping over. We need to be focusing on the problems as they exist, not in relation to anybody else. All right. And what we're going to be doing in this show is I am not going to just be talking about politics. I am so sick and tired of politics. I got the awesome graphics. I love my graphics. I am not going to be running for office. I'm not going to be pitching you on voting for me. I have no interest in any of that. The truth is, I have been a person of faith my entire life. And I am tired of kind of hiding my faith, hiding the message that has been inside of me, and what I believe is the solution that men need to find today is they need to find God in themselves. They need to find that power of spirit that is inside of them, and they have to be able to unleash it, because we are not trained to do this. We are not trained to look inside. We are trained to blame other people. And the truth is, inside of you is a power that cannot be contained, that cannot be stopped. I have seen incredible feats. I have seen miracles performed in my life. I have seen stuff that you'd think is just not possible, and I've seen it happen. All right, and I'll tell you all about it over the course of this show as we go. But I want you to know that this show is not going to be, it's not going to be what you, if you've been following me for the past years, it's not that anymore. All right. I'm tired of pretending something that I'm not. I'm tired of pretending that the issues that I've seen throughout the years, because I have seen stuff at the highest levels. I was at a fundraiser and I got a senator to talk about me and my wife. I didn't do anything. I introduced myself, told him what I had going on, and here he is telling all these amazing, super wealthy donors and other politicians in the room that this is a guy you need to watch out for right here. Keep an eye on him. And guess what? After he gave his speech and praised me, I had people coming up to me and saying that they were going to support me and do all this stuff. And like, I've seen stuff that would turn your hair white. I have been in the ghettos. I have seen people drugged out of their minds. I have been across the entire spectrum. And this world needs to change. We need to have a change if we want to continue as a species. Something is going to break one of these days. The world is divided super hardcore between left and right, and they're fighting as if this is a sports team thing where you have to root on your team for in every respect. Otherwise, you're a traitor to the cause, I guess. I just don't believe in it. I believe there are absolutely crazy woke liberals out there. Absolutely. That some of the things that I've heard through the years are just nuts. But here in this show, we're going to be grounding this in faith from now on. Okay. We're going to be grounding the subject matter of what it means to be a man, how we can develop as men, how can we turn ourselves into productive, useful, worthwhile members of society by focusing on ourselves and the power that we have in ourselves that we're able to draw out by understanding and appreciating the power of God. So that's what this content is going to be from now on. I hope you enjoy it. I invite you on this journey. I'm still me. I'm still Bradford Carlton. I'm the person you've come to know and love through the years. I'm just a little bit more angry. I'm a little bit more angry, and I'm ready to fight this issue. I'm going to be bringing guests on. We're going to be talking about these issues. I am not going to have any sexism. I'm not going to have any racism. I'm not going to have any transphobia. I do not believe any in that. It's not good. It's not productive to the conversation. We are going to be focusing on the real issues, and we are going to crush it. All right. Until next time, I'll see you tomorrow.